Alright, hello, welcome back to my channel. As I said, there's a lot of things I'm waiting on. If you watched yesterday's video, a lot of things I'm waiting on, a lot of packages I'm waiting on, and shipping right now with the holidays and all that stuff, I have a ton of stuff that's delayed. So I spent a ton of my time this previous week looking into the concept of getting cards graded and looking at the companies I could choose from and going through all that, and I ended up deciding that if I were to do this and get some stuff graded, I would want to go with PSA. I think PSA tends to be a little more lenient, and the grades in Beckett are a little harder to achieve, and sometimes, even though I do like the way those Beckett labels look, I figured PSA was probably my best bet of getting started, getting into it, getting things graded for the time being. So the next thing I looked into was the costs associated with that. And on the screen right now, I'm putting up what that looked like. The first thing when you go to PSA's website is you see this and you see that, with depending on the max declared value, there's your economy and your regular pricing. Economy being for $500 or less declared value, regular being for $1,000 or less value, which all of the cards I have would definitely be under those two numbers. But economy is currently unavailable. Due to backlog and the number of requests, you cannot do economy. So my only option was regular. But then I did see that value pricing, and with that value pricing, you have to be a Collectors Club member, which would cost me $60 a year. And in order to get that, I was looking, they also had a trading card game, all years, all values option, which was also $10 a card, but you had to have at least 20 cards. So what I did the last week or so, since that video came out last week, and if you haven't already watched it, please do to see all the stuff that I pulled from my parents' house. But I went through all those cards along with some of the first pulls that I made here since starting this channel, and I figured out what the 20 best cards for me to get graded that would add the most value based on their condition and what types of cards they are. So I'm just going to take some time to go through kind of what my best cards are and the ones that after the holidays I'm going to send in to get graded. So I have a stack here and we're kind of going to just go through this kind of quickly for some of these. So first up, one of the first things I pulled, our metal saucer here. So you got a full art, you got a secret rare. I can't imagine this getting a lower grade. Centering looked decent on all of this, especially being a newer card. But I've seen issues with surfaces on this type of card before. So leading into that is our big Parasol, which kind of the same thought process. Newer card, full art would look good in that packaging. Everything looks pretty decent overall. So I figured those are good bets, even though they're not going to be worth a huge value. It's something to get. Then we have our Rainbow Rare. BD Trainer. Kind of the same thought process, hoping that with these ones being, newer, centering's pretty good. Surface is the only thing with these cards I'm not able to really tell, but I figured those would come back with being a pretty decent return. So next, we have our Surfing Pikachu, so one of the secret rares from the Evolutions pack. So just anything Pikachu I feel like is going to do well. I actually kind of looked at recent sales and things like that, and this card isn't going for a ton, but I feel like for future value, having this framed with how nice the card was, the condition that it was in, it's something that I would just enjoy adding to my collection. Then we're kind of getting to some of our retro stuff. So I have a base set 2 Chansey card here. So overall, the card looked like it was in good condition. Centering looked like it was good. I've seen sales for things like this go for about $80. So if I think of the value it takes me to pay to have this graded, it would be a pretty good investment for something like this. Even if it were to grade somewhere in the 6 range, these are still going recently for about $80. And next we have a non-hollow Dark Blastoise card. So another one where it's one of your starter Pokemon. It's one of those original OG guys. Centering looked decent. Surface looked pretty good from what I could tell. In terms of the corners, there was a little bit of whitening on this side and on our edges there. But other than that, it looked pretty good. So I figured once again something I would just enjoy having to collect. But in terms of value, I think that it's there. Other ones that I just think would look nice sealed up that are in really good condition. We have a Rocket Moltres here. Great hollow form, great condition, not a ton of issues at all in terms of whitening. A little that was on the thing there. This bottom corner here is the only thing that I could really see throughout the entire card. So I figured this might be a good opportunity to add some value. Same thing goes for our Electabuzz here. Lieutenant Surge's Electabuzz. No swirls or anything in there that I could see. But once again, just another card that was kept in great condition. The surface looked awesome. And all of our edges and stuff on the back were nice as well. No, not a ton of whitening, if any, on that one. Same thing for this guy, Dark Arbuck. We have a swirl that you can see in there. You have elements. Centering is a little off from top, like from bottom to up. It's shifted a slightly up, but other than that, it was just another card that in general didn't have a ton of defects. And being, you know, a retro card, Rocket, holographic, I figured it was something, too, that I would take the chance to get graded, add a little bit of value, if not, just make my money back. Same thing for Hitmonlee. Decent-looking card, fossil, hollow, edges, corners, all that stuff looked pretty decent, so it was something that I figured just to add value for the future, I could get into that to get this bulk. So next here, we have a first edition Pikachu card here. So this is a card, once again, awesome condition, pretty decent centering, a little bit off from this corner diagonally that way from the bottom and the right side. And then same thing, not a lot of whitening, not a lot of corner issues. This is a card that, you know, recently has sold for $40 in really good condition, and I think that we're on that same category. So value once again. We have some of our reverse from the Legendary Collection. We have a Weedle and a Rhydon. Two cards that were in awesome condition that I pulled out of this, you know, out of my old stuff. Not issues at all. No corner issues. A tiny bit there, maybe a little bit of whitening. Both things that I think are going to come back graded fairly well. And like the Rhydon recently, and I have a list that I keep looking at over here. The Rhydon, this Rhydon right here in a 9, PSA 9, sold for $150. Just within the last week or two. So there is definitely some value in this Weedle at about $75 in the last week or two at a 9. So I'm thinking we can achieve that with those guys. Another one that I added in here so I could get that bulk number of 20 that was just in really good condition. It's a card that people have, but it's our Mewtwo Promo here. At a 9, it's about $60, and I do have some whitening, some issues on the edges there. But otherwise, the corners looked pretty good. The centering looked decent. The surface was really good from what I can tell with my non-PSA eye. So I just thought this was a good one to get looked at. We have our Jolteon Hollow from that Legendary Collection. So another one that was just in really good condition. Centering wasn't horrible. You didn't have a ton of issues. Maybe a speck in that corner. But other than that, a lot of these corners, maybe a little bit down there. That's something on the case there. Just another card that was in really good condition, hollow, that we can try and get some value out of by getting that up there. Another one that I really like that was in awesome condition is our Aerodactyl here. First edition fossil Aerodactyl. This is one of the best kept cards that I had in this set. You know, centering from bottom to top is a little bit off. But left to right's pretty decent. And in terms of all of our corners, this is probably one of the best condition cards that I had. Because this one had been in a hollow case or a hard case pretty much the entire time. So I've got high hopes for this card. Potentially a $100 one that if it were to come back at a 9. That has been recent sales. Another first edition Dark Dugtrio. Another card that was in a hard case, was taken care of. The surface was great. In terms of our edges, our corners, most of it was pretty good. A little bit of issues down here at the bottom were on our edges. But overall, I felt it was going to come back pretty well. And being a first edition, I thought it was worth getting looked at. Same thing for this guy. Our Dark Gyarados has a swirl right there that you can see. We have our first edition. Centering is not horrible. This corner is cut a little bit differently. You can see kind of the curve of that corner there. In terms of centering, though, it looks pretty decent. Maybe a little bit from bottom to top up. And our edge is a slight white in that corner and a little bit at that bottom corner, but still a very good condition card. One that has recently sold for first edition card like this at a 9 is about $250 in recent sale. So this is something that hopefully I can get somewhere near that, but even if I'm at a 7 or an 8 on that, I think there's good value. And then these last 3 are all ones that I just love. So having this Venusaur promo card that you got from the Pokemon the Trading Card Game strategy guide that I showed you before. I love this card. It looks pretty good. It was sealed for a very long time. Didn't really ever get taken out of that original packaging that it was in. A little bit of whitening and issues on the corner here, but this card right here, at like a 7. If this were to be a 7 with those issues that I kind of pointed out, that's a $80 card, and I've seen 8s and 9s going for 200 plus. So that would be nice. A base set 2 Blastoise, no swirl, but a card that I love to see. Centering is not the best. You can see it's thicker on this side than it is over on the opposite side there. But, once again, fairly well taken care of. Edges and corners are a little rough. Not expecting to get the best grade out of this, but just for the sake of collection, having that would be awesome. And then our last one that, you gotta get graded, is our Dark Charizard. So having this guy, not first edition, but fairly good condition, fairly good centering. If we're looking at our back, our edges all are fairly good. There's not a ton of whitening. The corners look pretty decent. This is one that I'm hoping will come back at a fairly decent grade for us to be able to get some value, because Charizard value is always going to be there. That's the same reason I had that Pikachu in there. The value is always going to be there. So these 20 cards right here are kind of my set for what I'm going to be sending out to PSA to get graded. With those 20 cards and the membership, we're looking at like $270 to get those graded, and then potentially a estimated, based on recent sales value, like a $1,700 value of just those 20 cards combined in value. So I'm hoping we can get good grades back on those. Anything that I pull between now and January, because I'm not going to send until, shipping calms down to a point where packages are able to get to places on time, and I'm hoping things don't get lost. But maybe I pull a Charizard between now and then from one of the other sets, and I add that to that pile. It probably will continue to grow here in the next month, but that is what I'm thinking. So if you have any feedback, any cards that you think aren't worth getting graded to here, or cards that you saw in my previous video that you think I should get graded, let me know in the comments. Let me know on social media. All that stuff is in the description. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, I know there's several people that watch these that are not subscribed, so please take a second to do that. It would help me out a ton in getting this channel to grow. So without further ado, that is the end, and I will see you tomorrow.